Chancellor, bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm, of course, Alex Armstrong, along with the famous five again. Willie Kingston's back, Dr. Renee's back, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshire are also joining me tonight on the show.
Stop laughing, you're not allowed.
Labour don't debate, they just insult.
Another day of record failures. The numbers are going to shock you.
Multiculturalism hasn't failed, leadership has. And cannabis laws criminalise being black.
It's 6 p.m, and this is the Saturday 5. Yeah, welcome to the Saturday 5, everybody. We like to start the show off with some other news in the week. So, Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, has been back out on the streets this week chasing down TfL fare dodgers as he takes crime into his own hands.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay?
Busy man, eh? One red-headed woman reportedly was seen running away from Jenrick, only to be chased down by Sky News.
Does it say, though, when the Deputy Prime Minister has to do a runner?
I don't think... you didn't see me doing a runner. There was no running doing.
Yeah, dodging those fares, eh? Naughty, naughty. And in a bid to come across as a working-class man, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has said he knows what it feels like to work in a factory 5 days a week because his dad did.
I know what it means to work 10 hours a day in a factory 5 days a week.
This is great news. If your mum and dad did it, so can you. In fact, Dr. Renee has just signed up her 6-year-old daughter to cover her at her next GP surgery. And given that her father is also a spinal surgeon, I hear he'll be letting her take the reins after a short training session on the board game operation. American actress Sydney Sweeney. Have you heard of her? There you go.
Certainly have.
Yeah, but you have, Will. She's selling her bath water. Bottles are reportedly flying off the shelves. This has prompted dad of 50 kids Boris Johnson to unveil his latest cash grab, Boris's Bath Time Bubbles. He claims that not only does the product contain the bath water, but the bubbles are completely organic and of his own making too. And finally, Sadiq Khan has claimed he wants to legalise marijuana, presumably so we'll all be too high to notice more ULEZ expansions. The Mayor of London claims it will free up police time so they can focus on diversity, equity and inclusion training.
Brother! Go on! Eat it!
Absolutely brilliant stuff. And yes, guess who's back? It's Willie Kingston. He's just landed back in the UK. The conditions were absolutely perfect for him as he glided over the English Channel with some of Patrick Christie's friends from Calais. And of course, the wonderful Dr. Renee is back from a very long week of training her daughter on how to become a GP. Of course, Kai Wilshire has returned. I don't know why, but his hard drive is clean. We did check it after last week's show, don't worry. And BBC Apprentice star Trey Lowe is here to dish out some common sense to the nation. Of course, I want to hear all your views. So send them in, gbnews.com/YourSay, and don't forget to get your questions in for our favourite part of the show. It's Ask the Five. Nothing's off limits. Trust me, it really isn't. They get wilder every week. And vote. This is the bit where you take control of the show, by the way. You can vote in our poll, and we let you vote on what we're going to debate about at 7 o'clock. So here's the options you've got. So, 1, should the UK ban halal meat slaughter? 2, has Reform UK become a left-wing party? 3, should the UK provide arms to Israel? But before we start tearing each other apart, it's Saturday Night News with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. French and UK border patrol vessels have been overwhelmed by a record surge in small boat migrants. Over 1,000 crossed the English Channel today. The latest arrivals have smashed the daily total for this year as people smugglers pushed out multiple migrant boats from a stretch of French coastline. Several British and French lifeboats had to be called in to help border patrol vessels on both sides of the Channel deal with the huge numbers crossing. The provisional figure is a huge leap on the previous one-day record of 825 migrants who made the illegal journey on the 21st of May. Elsewhere, Defence Secretary John Healey says there is no doubt that UK defence spending will rise to 3% of GDP by 2034 at the latest. The government will unveil its Strategic Defence Review on Monday, which will outline its priorities for military and security spending in the coming years. Sir Keir Starmer in February set out plans to increase defence spending to 2.5% by April 2027. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says more than £1.5 billion in extra funding for military homes will be confirmed as part of the government's Strategic Defence Review. Here's what John Healey has to say on this.
We've got to serve them better, we owe them better, and we especially owe them and their families better homes. For too long, our forces have made extraordinary sacrifices to serve this country, and yet we've forced their families to live in substandard accommodation. That ends.
It's under 24 hours until the sale and supply of disposable vapes are banned across the UK. The move is being used as a way to tackle waste and the impact of vapes on the environment. Nature Minister Mary Creagh says there'll be hefty fines for anyone who doesn't comply with the ban.
What we're clear is that we want to be the government that creates a smoke-free generation. So we're taking strong, decisive action to ban single-use vapes. You can see here 8 million of them disposed every week, fires across the country caused in facilities like this. We will not hesitate to take action if we find that the manufacturers are flouting the ban. We're going to crack down on the cowboys that are going to, we think, will carry on selling these vapes, and they now face a fine, potentially an unlimited fine for repeat offenders, and in jail time as well for those who repeat offend.
A man has been arrested after reports a car collided with a number of pedestrians in Leicester after reports of a fight in the area. 2 men and 2 women have been injured following the incident shortly after 12:30 a.m. 3 of those hurt are in hospital with serious injuries. A 31-year-old man from Leicester has been arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm with intent and causing serious injury by dangerous driving. And a body has been found in the search for a girl missing in the River Thames, police said this afternoon. A body was recovered from the river near Gravesend with the assistance of the RNLI at around 11:40 this morning. A boy who was rescued is in a stable condition in hospital. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It's Saturday night and you're with us Saturday 5, of course. Over the next 3 hours, the biggest debates, hottest topics and entertaining interviews. Before we crack on with the first debate, I was going to read very quick comments because, you know, we love you guys messaging into us. Diane says, the famous five are back. Willie is home. Welcome home, Will. How was the dinghy? Yeah, all right. Good. Leslie says, multiculturalism has failed absolutely and completely. We'll be getting into that later on today with Trey. And Rebecca says, lovely panel, Alex, even if Kai is on the show.
That's a double-edged compliment, I think.
All right, let's crack on tonight with the first debate. So I am going to kick us off. Over 1,000 illegal migrants have landed in Britain today. A record-breaking day in single biggest numbers, I think, since Keir Starmer took over. The largest flotilla of migrant arrivals in a single day has been broken for the third time already this year. In yet another humiliation for the Prime Minister's clearly doomed smash the gangs policy, migrant arrivals are now up over 40% on this time last year under the Conservative government. You probably remember hearing rumours of queues building up in Calais as Rishi Sunak doubled down on the Rwanda deterrent. Well, of course, we all know that was undone by Sir Keir Starmer on day one, who replaced it with an empty promise to smash the gangs. Well, how's that going, Prime Minister? Unfortunately, I'm not done talking about dismal records being smashed, because today we found out that foreigners are costing British taxpayers £1 billion a month in benefits. That is £12 billion a year. We were told we can't afford to heat the homes of our elderly. We were told we can't afford to help our farmers anymore. Yet £12 billion a year for foreigners on benefits. That's where your hard-earned taxpayer money is being spent. Half the cost of the so-called black hole in our public finances. Now, for the cost of just a couple of months of this madness, we could afford to undo all of Labour's damage and some more. Winter fuel allowance, well, that's gone. It's £2 billion a year in just 2 months of migrant benefit spending, nonetheless. Farming inheritance tax relief, that's another £1.5 billion, another 1.5 months of migrant payouts. Two-child benefit cap, Labour kept it to save £3 billion. That's just 3 months out to people who have barely paid into the system. With £5.5 billion left over, after reversing all 3 of those heartless cuts to British people, we could still do this. 18 brand new hospitals, 183 primary schools, 27,500 new council homes, and hire 110,000 new police officers to actually patrol our streets. Like the vast majority of normal countries around the world, we should just deport people who simply cannot pay their way. This isn't controversial. It is common sense. British taxpayers are not charity workers. So when they tell you we can't afford to heat pensioners' homes, we can't protect family farms or lift children out of poverty, just remember this. We could afford it, just they choose to spend it on foreigners instead. Will, of course, I'm coming to you first because you're actually a foreigner.
I am a foreigner, yep.
How would you feel being a British citizen if you had to sit here on benefits while the rest of us had to work to pay your way?
Pretty unhappy, Alex, but can I defend myself slightly, because I am one of those migrants. I am someone on a visa. I'm one of the 5% of people on a visa in this country on a skilled worker visa, i.e. the people who will be net contributors to the economy, who will be bringing particular skills to the table. 95% of people who are on visas in this country are not in that category. It goes to show this is about the mix of migrants in this country. It's about the people who will actually mix in culturally and will actually put the money on the table.
Okay, just before I move on to Renee, would you be OK being deported if you no longer contribute to society?
Of course. It's common sense.
I'll do it.
Minister for Deportation, Dr. Renee, you're next.
Look, I think the most interesting thing about this that you just said is about choice. Because there's plenty of money that is currently being put into the government's coffers. It's not their money, it's our money, by us, the taxpayers. And everything they do with it is a choice. So when they make crazy choices but don't care about elderly people freezing in their home and farmers losing their farms so we don't have food, people will start to kick back, and they are.
Kai, 2 points here. Massive failure on Smash the Gangs. That is absolutely abysmal. Up 40% on Rishi Sunak, by the way. That's after, of course, there's no deterrence anymore. The Prime Minister's now scrambling on immigration. He's scrambling to try and win back the votes on this because it's looking even worse now. 3 records smashed in a year. You've lost control of immigration. The border's just completely unmanageable now.
What you haven't said, Alex, is other figures that came out this week show that immigration has fallen in 2024.
Because of what the Conservatives did.
As I was going to say, from 860,000 to 431,000.
Let's celebrate slicing in half the crisis, everybody.
And look, it's not good enough. But what it shows is how long it takes to actually change systems of quite great complexity
it took a year
in this country and in other countries.
It took a year because the figures are yearly. They made the changes. The figures come out.
Well, it took 2 years.
But we're not even talking about legal migration. I wasn't even asking you about legal migration. Legal migration.
I know. But what I'm saying is the idea that Smash the Gangs has failed because of the figures that we've seen in the last few months or in this last week is ridiculous, because what those figures clearly show is it takes time to change the system.
But illegal migration is going down because of Conservative Party policy, and illegal migration is going up since Labour is. So there is quite clearly. You can't sit here and... I mean, come on, Carl, you're a reasonable bloke. You can't sit here and deny that there's a failure of policy here. There's no deterrent, is there?
I don't think that the problem is the failure of policy or that there's a lack of deterrent.
What's the problem?
Right? I think it's just complicated. There's been policy change.
Okay, it's just complicated. Let's not worry about it. The whole economy thing, it's just complicated. There's a lot of numbers. Let's not worry about it.
I think what Kai's saying, the complication, it's true, but I think there's not really a real sense of deterrence. There are no consequences to these gangs that are bringing them over thinking it's fair game. In fact, let's bring as many as we can.
But it's not just
because there's not a perception that there are any consequences at all whatsoever.
Look, I think if we just took away all of the benefits and the houses and the hotels, that would be a good start. But, Kai, when Starmer signs into reality this EU youth movement scheme, and we find out what the numbers are, that halving of the visa scheme is going to be eclipsed by the number of people coming from
100%.
Europe to fill our cheap jobs. So we're going to just massage it.
Trey, let me talk to you about this massive benefits bill we're paying. £12 billion, £1 billion a month. Right, British people, British taxpayers are paying for people who've come to this country to live here, to stay here on benefits. They're not net contributors at that point. They are a drain on the economy. Should we just be deporting people who can't do this like every other country does?
I think a system that I think is really good to buy. Pretty much you can't beat it unless you've got a job. You can't actually do anything unless you are going to be a contributor. And I think that's probably what needs to happen, isn't it? Of course, it doesn't sound good. I mean, I'm sure those figures may not be that accurate, but we know it's costing, right? And I think what needs to happen is needs to be some level of deterrence in terms of we're just not going to support people in those situations whatsoever, and everyone knows about it, so less people are going to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know?
Yeah, Kai, on this particular topic, your potential future Prime Minister in waiting, Angela Rayner's had some things to say on it, hasn't she? Would you back her? Would you back her? Because she's saying we should scrap benefits for migrants as well.
Well, you can only access payments at the minute once your immigration status has been verified by the Home Office.
What do you call a hotel?
Hang on, no, don't dodge the question.
But no. I think that shows.
Rayner?
Yeah, yes, I do.
On this policy?
Well, I said that last week, didn't I?
There you go.
I think she's a common...
Keir Starmer's wrong there.
What's clear is that the Labour Party, as well as lots of mainstream politicians, are waking up to the fact that the benefits of widespread immigration have not been felt and were not correctly reported previously. We know that, OK? And the Labour Party is making moves to try and combat.
I think it's an insincere move, though, isn't it? I think it's just a reaction.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, listen.
I believe that Labour, to its core, believes in open borders and one world.
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap that up there. So it's the final week, though, to see how you could win our biggest giveaway today. It's a brand new motorhome. If you haven't heard it before, it's 67 grand, everyone. It's it's a pretty big one. I think 5k tax-free cash as well. But anyway,
Have a
look at how you can make it yours.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet.
Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This motorhome and £5,000 in cash really could be yours. Good luck.
Yes, good luck, everybody. So, Renee, what's coming up next?
Labour don't debate, they just insult.
Yep.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's Saturday evening, everyone, and you're with the Saturday 5. Please get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. And while you're there, ask the 5. We love, ask us anything you like. I will copy and paste it from your say into my MacBook here, and I'll make sure I read it out, OK? Thank you for them so far. Let me read out just a couple here. Let's have a look. Leslie, on the topic of multiculturalism, said it's failed and completely, it's been an unmitigated disaster for the UK.
Wow.
Miss Sezzy, I think I've said that right. Miss Sezzy says, ask the 5, and we'll do this later on as well. It's costing us $1 billion in benefits to foreigners. Here's a question. How much of that $1 billion do you think is being sent back to recipients' home countries? Ooh, yeah, good question there. We'll try and get to that a little bit later if we can do a bit of digging for you. But now it's time for our next debate. I think you know who it is.
It's me.
Go on then, Renee, take it away.
OK, so political discussion has increasingly degenerated into name-calling, and we know that it is the left who sling most of the insults. Homophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic, racist, sexist, you name it. If they don't like what you say, you'll be phobic. And it's become a habit of the left to weaponise language to shut down debate that they don't want to have. And the irony this week, when Attorney General Hermer described anyone who wanted to leave the ECHR as being likened with Nazis, was no different to that. Not only is the Nazi slur sinking to the bottom of the pile when it comes to debate slurs, it is an absolute insult to the 6 million Jews who were targeted and killed by actual Nazis in the war, but also it's a slur to the millions of Brits who no longer want to be part of the ECHR. They don't want rapists, murderers, paedophiles to have the right to a nice family life in the UK. And I have no respect for courts that bend over backwards to get them that nice life in the UK when they've harmed people in the UK, when they've harmed our children. Frankly, I don't give a damn about the human rights of these low-grade humans. Send them back from whence they came. But Labour have shown us from the get-go who they really are. They are global autocrats who do not want your views to have any truck in their debate, not if they differ from their views. They divided us right at the beginning. Anyone who dissented from the narrative was a right-wing nutter, was a thug, and now you're a Nazi. Then step online and say something awful that they don't like and you'll end up in prison before you can say two-tier Kia. The name-calling is a deliberate plan to demonise the working class who Labour despise.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you know, it does very much feel, and I know these laws have been around for a while, free speech laws have been around for a while, it does very much feel like it's being weaponised now more than ever. But we have to start with you, Kai. You know, what is it with leftists and calling everyone Nazis? We saw it happen under Trump in America when he was standing for election. He got left, right and centre people calling him a Nazi, saying it was like Nuremberg rallies happening in New York. It's just ridiculous, and the public don't associate with these things, do they?
Yeah, no, and you know I agree on this. I don't think that calling people racist, homophobic, transphobic is the way to win an argument. But let's just be clear about what he actually said. He was making a bit of a clumsy comment, and that's how it's been characterised, saying the claim that international law is fine as it goes but can be put aside when conditions change is a claim that was made in the 1930s by realist jurors. Now, he was making a legalistic point, very clumsily and very badly. But the irony is here, Renee, that you're jumping on a bandwagon and saying that he should resign or he should be fired because of comments that he's made.
Did I say that?
No, she didn't say that.
Well, that's the implication of what you're saying.
Let me ask you this, Will.
But he also, in the same speech, said that the people who were making these claims, Badenoch and Farage, were patriots and were making these arguments in good faith. So, actually, I think this has been a mountain out of a molehill.
Well, I mean, so Archie here says, does Britain need or want an Attorney General who uses clumsy words on the world stage? What kind of lawyer uses clumsy words? It's deliberate, really, isn't it?
Archie is spot on, because this isn't about cancel culture where someone has a view which isn't of the moment. This goes to his competence in the job. In the job, A, you need to be a good politician, and this showed a lack of insight into how it would come across with the public. But B, Archie's exactly right. It shows that he's not good with his language, and if he was being serious and deliberate with this, then it was an outrageous slur.
Yeah.
It's a competence issue, not a cancel culture issue.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just think it's just lazy. It's just, rather than deal with the point, let's just throw things, and then it makes real racism and real homophobia almost immaterial because it's always just thrown. And it isn't clumsy, it is deliberate because you could use anything else. Why would he refer to that? Everyone knows the minute you mention and refer to the Nazis, it's super emotive.
Yeah, and Kai, just on this point as well, because the word far right, in my opinion, is thinly guised calling someone a Nazi because that's what the Nazis were. They were far right, so to speak. Many people would argue they were far left, socialists. I'm not going to get into that debate today. But, you know, this kind of language, really, the general public really hate it, don't they? They really hate it. So why is it? I mean, I'm not saying you're saying, because you're quite good about it. You don't call people far right very often. Why is it on the left? It seems to be a problem.
But that's just your perception.
It's
honestly.
not, though, is it?
It really is, because the right wing, the right always. I've been called the wokest man in Britain, as has Benjamin Butterworth before me.
It's
I've
not
been
quite
called
the same
far
as
left.
calling someone far right.
I've been called far left.
It's not quite the same as calling someone a Nazi.
Well, OK, let's take the exact opposite. I've been called far left, but actually, I consider myself quite a centre-left, fairly pragmatist kind of guy.
So all the people that are called far right consider themselves to be quite centrist Tories, to be honest with you.
OK.
But the centre has moved.
But we don't
talk about
connotation. I think it is a real slur to stop debate. You know, and I think people are fed up of being called far right. And ironically, you're pushing.
Yeah, but I get it too, Trey.
All right, OK, thank you for that. Right, we've got our next debate coming up, and he's back. It's Big Willie.
It is me. Well, that's enough, Kai. Stop eating into my time. Ladies and gentlemen, lovely to be back. Comedy used to be the most subversive of the art forms. It has become the most puritanical and the most cowardly. If you watch GBNews regularly, you would already know this. This studio is effectively a club for cancelled comedians. But the phenomenon was confirmed this week with Andrew Lawrence. Andrew Lawrence is an edgy comedian. He put out a tweet on X after the tragic events in Liverpool. We've got the tweet there, you can read it. To be fair, if I was in Liverpool, I'd drive through the crowds of people to get the F out of there as well. Now, look, some people may find that funny, some people may find that distasteful. That's not really the point. The point is that the comedy industry, out of everyone, should be the people who should be fighting for the right to be able to say that, fighting for the right to have that out there, fighting for the right for gallows humour, which in the past has been a way for people to come to terms with grief. It's been a way for uncomfortable truths to come out into the public sphere in times where no other art form can do it. Unfortunately, the comedy clubs failed in their duty to do so. The Caddies Comedy Club cancelled Andrew. The ironically titled Hot Water Comedy Club said he would no longer be allowed at their venues. The Comedy Store, arguably the most famous of the London-based comedy clubs, also said that they stand with the people of Liverpool. This isn't good enough, ladies and gentlemen. Comedy should be at the vanguard of fighting against this puritanical wokeism that has overtaken our society, and unfortunately, they are now leading it. Has the UK comedy industry and UK comedy more generally died in this country?
Can I ask you a question off the back of this, Will? Because I think you're going to get a 50-50 split on this. Now, when the Abeidi, my producer will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the Manchester bombing a terrorist, once he committed his crime, a couple of years later, a man dressed up as him and used it as a Halloween costume. Do you think that's OK?
I think it should be legal. I think it is morally distasteful.
Yeah.
But that is not the point that we're making. I think many people would argue that was morally or that was distasteful as a comment, but that is no grounds to stop a comedian from going into a comedy club and doing their job.
And if you owned a private company, a bar or a club, would you be able and allowed, and would you take the decision to bar that person wearing that costume from that venue?
Of course.
Because that is what...
Are you asking me the question?
Because, Will, freedom of speech is not the same as freedom from consequence. We know that. Some of these tweets, and the tweets after, actually, some of the things he said, yes, they're incredibly distasteful. Now, these comedy venues are private companies. They're allowed to do what they like and bar people from headlining
surely
in their
that they're only doing it because of the pressure that they feel they're going to get by letting him perform. And this is a slippery slope.
Or the fact that...
We've seen it where comedians can't tell jokes about a mother-in-law anymore because it's offensive to mother-in-laws. I got a message last week from, I don't know who it was, Moonpig, saying, do you want us to send you emails about Father's Day? Because if that's upsetting or triggering for you, we won't send them. You can opt out. This is where it's going. And comedy clubs will become like libraries where someone's sitting in the corner going, shh.
Well, but actually,
you asked me the question, are they allowed to not let him perform? Of course they're allowed to. It's their private property, it's their enterprise. But the point is this goes against the spirit of the endeavour. The whole point of comedy is that you should be being edgy.
I agree. I think, come on, we must have at least some areas where we're allowed to laugh at stuff. It's distasteful, I wouldn't say it. I may not even laugh at it. But I like the fact that comedy should be that one area where you're allowed to just risk offending people in pursuit of getting a laugh. I think there's nothing wrong with that. We've become too sensitive.
Yes. You're absolutely right. Nobody has the right to not be offended. And surely the answer is, if you don't like his humour, don't buy a ticket to his show. End.
Yes, but actually, Trey, you're a businessman, right? These comedy clubs, if they accepted anybody and had these shows running at a complete loss, as this one probably would have. Rubbish. They've made a commercial.
You're conflating two things.
Well, you say that, but you're just imputing that.
No, it should be okay. We should be able to laugh at stuff. Come on, give us a break. Let's just laugh. Now, I don't personally find it funny. Let me just say that. But comedians should be allowed to say these things. Some people find it funny.
All right. Okay.
Know?
Listen, this is a tough one. I'm a little bit drawn in it because I understand for people who might have been caught up in that incident, it wouldn't have been very funny to them. But should anyone be cancelled for offence? Well, offence is taken, not given. Anyway, Kai, what's coming up after the break?
Well, Sadiq Khan's new laws on cannabis are the right choice because at the minute our laws cannibalise? Sorry, criminalise being black. We got there in the end.
Please don't turn off the channel, everybody. See you after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Quite a changeable look to the weather on Sunday, a mixture of rain or showers for some of us, but there will be some sunshine, particularly in the south and the east. It is going to be turning a good deal fresher though, this cold front bringing in some fresher winds from the Atlantic as we go into Sunday, and those isobars tightening together to bring some brisker winds. One or two showers on Saturday evening just moving their way eastwards across England and Wales, but many areas actually ending the day on a dry note with some clear periods overnight. Notice these clumps of heavy showers and longer spells of rain arriving across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland though, and here turning quite windy once again. Temperatures not as high as they have been in recent nights and feeling a good deal fresher by the morning. So for Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, quite a wet start to the day on Sunday. That rain particularly heavy across the Highlands, the Grampians and down across the central belt as well. A mixture of sunshine showers to the northwest of Scotland and across Northern Ireland. So you may be lucky enough to stay dry just about here. But a few isolated showers also for Northern England, Wales and southwest England too. The best of the morning sunshine across the Midlands and eastern parts of the UK. But as we go through the morning, the cloud will tend to just bubble up a bit towards the east. Still some sunny spells here. Some pretty heavy showers, the odd rumble of thunder there across Wales, Northern England and Western Scotland. And here it will be a fairly blustery day, perhaps even coastal gales through the Irish Sea. So feeling quite a bit cooler than it has done of late. Still holding on to a little bit of warmth in the far southeast with highs of around 22 or 23 in the London area. A fine day to come for most of us on Monday, just a few very isolated showers developing. But notice it does start to turn much windier up towards the northwest and out towards the west. We've got this much wetter and windier area of weather coming in from Monday night and into Tuesday. So a wet and windy spell for many of us as we begin the day on Tuesday. And it looks set to stay pretty changeable for the rest of the week.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. Please keep your comments in gbnews.com/yoursay. Let me quickly read a couple out here for you. On our last debate, whether Andrew Lawrence should be cancelled, Adrian Porter said, well, that wasn't funny at all, in reference to his joke. El Diablo said, ha ha ha, that was really funny. So
I think that sums it up.
Sums up the debate for you. While you're on your say, keep them coming in, because I keep them going here, as you can tell, and we'll put them into the Ask the Five later as well. So if you've got some really good ones to ask us, some really challenging ones, I'll put them for later on. So keep them coming.
Not too challenging, guys.
Yeah, well, of course, we've got to keep it soft. Now it is time for our next debate. And Kai, I believe it's you, hey?
Yes, I'm next.
Sign off, everyone, please.
Having butchered the intro just before the break.
Kai the cannibal.
Kai the cannibal. I've been called many things, not that. But no, my point today is that cannabis laws criminalise being black. Now, yes, this week Sadiq Khan has spoken out following a report that suggests that cannabis should be legalised. Now, what current legislation amounts to is that criminalising cannabis criminalises poverty and, frankly, criminalises being black. Now, cannabis laws in the UK don't just target crime, they target black and brown Londoners, and that's just a fact. Now, despite similar usage, black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched. And actually, 2 of the producers just in this studio have told me that their friends, their black friends, have been stopped and searched while they never have. Now, meanwhile, more classy predilections, like rich people using cocaine or yuppies using ecstasy, go unpunished. We all know our economy is in the gutter in this country. London is missing out on a multi-billion-pound opportunity.
Oh my.
Make cannabis legal, legalise it, regulate it, tax it. Okay. Now, it's not radical, it's just responsible. What do you make of that, Renee?
Actually, thanks, Sean Paul. I'd like to go straight. Young people will get the reference. I'd like to go straight to Will Kingston. He's sitting on the edge of his seat to ask you a question based on the back of that.
The libertarians should surely agree.
I agree, but I disagree with the way you frame that, Kai. I know for a fact that you are not a racist person, but the way you frame that is undoubtedly racist. There is nothing in the pigment of your skin which makes you more or less likely to take cannabis. Now, you can say that there is a correlation between a particular ethnic group and particular types of drugs, but to say, therefore, that we are doing this and we are therefore oppressing black people as a result of putting the laws in place is the type of kind of progressive racist attitude which has been typified over the last 5 years since Black Lives Matter.
It's not my racism. It's other people's racism to consider that 8.9 for every 1,000 people in London generally get stopped and searched. Okay. Whereas 24.5 black people per 1,000 get stopped.
And then I want to come to Trey.
Right. I used to think that we should do exactly what you've said, but you notice that the Mayor said that he wanted to legalise natural cannabis, which is not this THC-enhanced cannabis, which actually drives psychosis amongst some people, OK? So the problem you would have is that's what they would legalise, and then the black market for the really heavy stuff would still exist. So you wouldn't get rid of that anyway, or the crime that goes with it. But just to give you some stats, last year alone, just under 15,000 kids under 17 sought treatment in drug and alcohol units, with 87% of them being for cannabis. Adolescents are 2 times more likely to develop mild or moderate depression, and 3.3 times more likely to develop severe depression. We have a massive mental health problem already. Cannabis is driving it. Household incomes, you're right, under 10,000 a year are more likely to use cannabis. Is that because of the cannabis, or is it because it's the stealer of motivation? And it is a stealer of motivation. I have watched it happen.
OK. Yeah, I think there are 2 things here. I mean, whether you're right, you know, we legalise it and people start going on to the heavier stuff may not be the best thing. But I want to go back to that point about the 9 times more likely to be stopped. I think that's true, because we said that, isn't it? I'm the only one that's been stopped. And I was like, oh, it's normal. I grew up getting stopped all the time. But none of you guys have done. You're right. And it is almost like we talk about 2-tier policing. It is a little bit,
but
right?
were you stopped because of cannabis? Or were you
no, but just stopped and searched. And if you've got cannabis, then, like you say, you show up on stats. But a lot of my sort of white middle-class friends who might have taken drugs never, ever had an issue. So it is a form of 2-tier policing, which is not necessarily that fair.
I know, obviously, you're a black guy, for the radio listeners. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear from someone who actually has experienced this. But I think the argument you'd get back to this, Trey, is that disproportionately there are crimes committed on drug abuse because black people commit them more disproportionately than white people do. So stop and search.
Commit them, or they're more found of it. Like there are some instances, stop and search are great, like knife crime. If it would save my son's life, if someone got stopped, fine. But there are other times when it's not done in the same. Like if you literally in the city of London and you stop these bankers going home, you'd probably find little powders on them, but you don't stop them. So these figures are quite skewed because the wrong people are getting stopped. And I think for personal use, people shouldn't be getting prosecuted for it.
Is that racist?
No, not at all.
The fact that
that's 9 times more likely to be stopped.
That's outrageous.
So you would find something to stop enough people, right?
I'm in a difficult position of arguing against Kai and Renee at the same time for different reasons. But if there's a thread that runs through it all, it is that both of you are ignoring personal responsibility. Kai, you're ignoring personal responsibility because black people can play the victim card by saying, because I'm black, therefore I'm more likely to commit
It's not a victim card, though. It's real.
By saying, oh, well, these drugs...
That's not true.
These drugs are, going to make you more likely to be mentally ill or whatever, when they have the choice to take that drug in the first place.
It's not a victim card.
You are ignoring personal responsibility.
I want to give Trey the last word on this, considering he is black.
Yeah.
And has actually got experience.
That's not fair. It's not a victim card. It's just a matter of fact. I actually said it when you said, have I been stopped? I said it in a matter-of-fact way. I didn't say, oh, I've been stopped and I hate it and I'm upset. That's what, of course, we got stopped all the time. We just got used to it. It's not a victim card. It's just a fact of life. There are good things about getting stopped sometimes because it might save a life, but there are definitely bad things because it is 2-tier policing. Everyone's doing drugs and only a certain subsector of people are getting stopped for it. That's not fair.
So, sorry, guys.
It's legalised for white people, by the way. Either.
That's a separate thing,
all right. OK, Trey, you're coming up next. You've got a big debate for us. What we got going?
Yep, it's all about multiculturalism and whether it's failed. I think multiculturalism hasn't failed. Leadership around it has.
OK, let's find out after the break.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to a very explosive Saturday 5 this evening. Please get in contact with me and the team here, gbnews.com/yoursay. Let me get a question in very quickly from you guys here, or a comment. I can't pronounce this username, it's KRHLW something. When I was a white, long... I'm guessing it's still white.
Sorry?
I'm guessing it's still white, right?
Identifies as white.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm guessing it's still white. But when I was, brackets, white, long-haired hippie in the early 70s, I was constantly being stopped and searched. The police were not being racist, they just knew I might be carrying drugs, and I often was. Fair play. Opening up that one.
Well, that was you hadn't given up on the war on drugs.
That's right, exactly. Right, get your questions in, of course. Ask the Five. I want to see more of those Ask the Five questions. Please put them in to gbnews.com/yoursay. But now it's time for our next debate, and up next, it's Trey.
With my new jacket on, because
Yeah,
it's
it's gonna be
actually
chilly.
freezing.
Yeah.
OK, so they say multiculturalism has failed, but let's tell the truth. Multiculturalism isn't the problem. The real failure is leadership. Britain has always been multicultural in our DNA. The Commonwealth helped build modern Britain. People from the Caribbean, from Africa, from South Asia, they were invited here to rebuild the country after the war. They served in our armed forces, our NHS, transportation, our factories. So let's not rewrite history. Multiculturalism has worked when there was a shared sense of purpose, identity, and values. Where it's failing now, it's recent. And it's not because of the people. It's because no one in power has the bottle to define what Britishness actually is anymore. What are our values? What's expected of you when you break the law? What will be tolerated? What won't be tolerated? What's the line and what happens when you cross it? Why are some of our leaders afraid to, for instance, put the rule of law in action for fear of offending people, for instance, like grooming gangs, etc.? Instead, we've had years of hesitation. Hesitation to enforce the rule of law. Hesitation to listen to ordinary British people, whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're Asian. People who raise concerns and gets labelled racist. That's not leadership, that's cowardice. Multiculturalism hasn't failed. The British people haven't failed. Leadership has failed. And until we have the courage to say what Britain stands for, and who we are as a nation, we will keep losing the very values we claim to protect.
Oh, fantastic stuff, Trey. Will, you were very animated there.
Come on, Will.
Go on, give it
Well,
to
Come on.
Let's kind of put paid to this BBC-style notion that we've always been a multicultural society.
But we have.
We tried multiculturalism briefly in 1066. William the Conqueror then pushed that out very, very quickly, and then it was monocultural for 1,000 years.
That is
not quite true.
Of manure,
But
Will.
the other thing which we need to say...
We weren't all speaking
what you're
French
saying-
then, were we?
What you're saying is, like, there's nothing wrong with being multi-ethnic as a society.
True, yep.
The issue with multiculturalism is precisely what you're saying, in that it means we don't have a shared set of values, we don't have a shared culture, and as a result of that, there is social fracture. I think we're saying the same thing in some respects, but we don't have what the meaning of the term multiculturalism is obviously different to different people. Multiculturalism means that you have different values, different beliefs scattered around the place without that unified
You have
British
different
centre.
cultures attempting to live together. I think the issue is, and that's why I'm a monarchist, there hasn't been this real strong culture of this is what Britishness is. And then we define those values and people adhere to those values while still retaining their culture. I am British, but I'm of Nigerian descent and I love my Nigerian culture. It doesn't mean I have to contribute on the rules of this country or try and change people who are already here. I have to adhere to the culture that's here in this country.
We haven't got much time.
Sorry.
I agree with you and I disagree with you.
Go for it.
And I agree with you. I've got a mixed-race child. Of course multiculturalism worked. His father is second generation Windrush and everything worked perfectly. I think part of the problem is exactly what you say about not having something British to believe in, but the other part is to do with culture. And the Windrush culture and everything that came with it was a Christian culture. Was a Christian culture. We now have mass immigration from a culture which is not...
But what about the half million to a million Indians and Pakistanis that came over in the 60s? They were fine.
Well, would you argue? Because I think Renee's got a point. I think what it is that when you can't get assimilation, this is when the problem happens. Because you're right, there's generations of people from different backgrounds. The Windrush generation, even my stepfather came in from Iran 40, 50 years ago, and
they integrated fine. So something recent has happened, hasn't it?
But is that the problem? Because mass immigration has failed and is making multiculturalism now fail because people can't assimilate.
Well, I'm going to make a point that you might not expect. The British Empire holds those things together. People from India, people from the Windrush generation, they all came over with that kind of shared culture. And I agree that's an issue. There are lots of people coming over too quickly and too many who aren't from a similar culture to the UK.
Or they're not the British Empire, which has made it harder.
Will, you really can't go out to assert that multiculturalism never was something that Britain's been known for. That is just not true.
We are a collection of...
We have been... As a Welshman, and knowing the culture of Brittonic and Anglo-Saxons and Vikings and Normans, frankly, that is ridiculous for you to assert that.
Yeah, look, and those Vikings and Normans got along so well, didn't they?
I think, guys, what we're failing to remember, though, what I'm talking about is leadership. No one's been leading the way.
Yeah,
They're
I
either
agree
too
with you on
scared
this.
to offend people,
I agree.
or, there's no leadership. This is what British values are. This is what we stick to. We might have to have some laws that some people don't like.
That
it's
is
the
what it comes
leadership
down to.
that's missing.
We do need someone in this country to take forward and be the bastion of British culture. Actually, here's what it means to be British in 2025.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we've got to leave it there because we've got a little break and you've got the weather coming up for you. But please stay with us because we've got so much coming, including that Saturday scrap that you've been voting for. First up, here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Quite a changeable look to the weather on Sunday, a mixture of rain or showers for some of us, but there will be some sunshine, particularly in the south and the east. It is going to be turning a good deal fresher though, this cold front bringing in some fresher winds from the Atlantic as we go into Sunday, and those isobars tightening together to bring some brisker winds. One or two showers on Saturday evening, just moving their way eastwards across England and Wales, but many areas actually ending the day on a dry note with some clear periods overnight. Notice these clumps of heavy showers and longer spells of rain arriving across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland though, and here turning quite windy once again. Temperatures not as high as they have been in recent nights and feeling a good deal fresher by the morning. So for Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, quite a wet start to the day on Sunday. That rain particularly heavy across the Highlands, the Grampians and down across the central belt as well. A mixture of sunshine showers to the northwest of Scotland and across Northern Ireland. So you may be lucky enough to stay dry just about here. But a few isolated showers also for Northern England, Wales and southwest England too. The best of the morning sunshine across the Midlands and eastern parts of the UK. But as we go through the morning, the cloud will tend to just bubble up a bit towards the east. Still some sunny spells here. Some pretty heavy showers, the odd rumble of thunder there across Wales, Northern England and western Scotland. And here it will be a fairly blustery day, perhaps even coastal gales through the Irish Sea. So feeling quite a bit cooler than it has done of late. Still holding on to a little bit of warmth in the far southeast with highs of around 22 or 23 in the London area. A fine day to come for most of us on Monday, just a few very isolated showers developing. But notice it does start to turn much windier up towards the northwest and out towards the west. We've got this much wetter and windier area of weather coming in from Monday night and into Tuesday. So a wet and windy spell for many of us as we begin the day on Tuesday. And it looks set to stay pretty changeable for the rest of the week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of four. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday. Can you not be quiet, please? So unruly, these people, honestly. The biggest Saturday night show on TV. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show,
we'll be bringing you all the best trigger tantrums of the week.
We'll reveal the topic that you voted for us to doing the Saturday
Almost, yeah, almost. In our first big interview tonight, should a police officer have been sacked for losing control?
Why are trans athletes still competing with biological women?
Have you got a tease for us? Maybe not. Well, we'll leave cards on. This is the Saturday 5. I told you, this is like impossible to imagine. You always tell me, stop them. I get messages from people saying, can you please stop them from talking over each other? You try doing this job, honestly, it's impossible. I'd manage a primary school better. Anyway, welcome back. Loads more to come this evening, including that award-winning police officers joining us to talk about that police officer who was sacked for losing control. Robert Jenrick turns vigilante, doesn't he? He's got Batman stopping people dodging their TfL fares. And of course, we've got this week's Triggered Tantrums. They're brilliant as always. You won't want to miss it. And of course, big part of this show, as you all know who watch very regularly, we love reading out your comments. So gbnews.com/your say, and Ask the Fives coming up not that long now. We love hearing from you. We really, really do. So please send some of those in for us too. Before we start tearing each other apart, Saturday Night News is coming up with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. French and UK border patrol vessels have been overwhelmed by a record surge in small boat migrants. Over 1,000 crossed the English Channel today. The latest arrivals have smashed the daily total for this year as people smugglers pushed out multiple migrant boats from a stretch of French coastline. Several British and French lifeboats had to be called in to help border patrol vessels on both sides of the Channel deal with the huge numbers crossing. The provisional figure is a huge leap on the previous one-day record of 825 migrants who made the illegal journey on the 21st of May. Elsewhere, Defence Secretary John Healey says there is no doubt that UK defence spending will rise to 3% of GDP by 2034 at the latest. The government will unveil its strategic defence review on Monday, which will outline its priorities for military and security spending in the coming years. Sir Keir Starmer in February set out plans to increase defence spending to 2.5% by April 2027. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says more than £1.5 billion in extra funding for military homes will be confirmed as part of the government's strategic defence review. Here's what John Healey has to say on this.
We've got to serve them better, we owe them better, and we especially owe them and their families better homes. For too long, our forces have made extraordinary sacrifices to serve this country, and yet we've forced their families to live in substandard accommodation. That ends.
It's under 24 hours until the sale and supply of disposable vapes are banned across the UK. The move is being used as a way to tackle waste and the impact of vapes on the environment. Nature Minister Mary Creagh says there'll be hefty fines for anyone who doesn't comply with the ban.
What we're clear is that we want to be the government that creates a smoke-free generation. So we're taking strong, decisive action to ban single-use vapes. You can see here 8 million of them disposed every week. Fires across the country caused in facilities like this. We will not hesitate to take action if we find that the manufacturers are flouting the ban. We're going to crack down on the cowboys that are going to, we think, will carry on selling these vapes, and they now face a fine, potentially an unlimited fine for repeat offenders, and in jail time as well for those who repeat offend.
A man has been arrested after reports a car collided with a number of pedestrians in Leicester after reports of a fight in the area. 2 men and 2 women have been injured following the incident shortly after 12:30 a.m. 3 of those hurt are in hospital with serious injuries. A 31-year-old man from Leicester has been arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm with intent and causing serious injury by dangerous driving. And a body has been found in the search for a girl missing in the River Thames, police said this afternoon. A body was recovered from the river near Gravesend with the assistance of the RNLI at around 11:40 this morning. A boy who was rescued is in a stable condition in hospital. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Saturday night, you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Alex Armstrong. I can promise you're in for a very lively hour. Before we go, I have to apologise to Kai. It's actually Trey who read out his T's wrong to you all. Yeah, hang your head in shame, mate. You've spent more time on telly than the rest of us.
I know.
Oh, all right, okay.
Still,
Sorry, Kai.
There goes my street cred.
It's just so easy to blame Kai, though.
Yeah,
it is.
Blame him anyway.
Fun, really,
It
isn't
is more fun.
I'm happy to take the fall.
Okay. All right, well, let's crack on with tonight's main event. It's the Saturday Scrap. It's our favourite part of the show because you get to fully take over it. You've been voting at what you think we should go head-to-head on at home on the Saturday Scrap, and we've been asking these questions. Should the UK ban halal slaughter? Has Reform UK become a left-wing party? And should the UK provide arms to Israel? The results, of course, are in. Could you imagine? 77% of you voted for whether we should ban halal slaughter in the UK. 9% for has Reform become a left-wing party, 14% for should we provide arms to Israel. OK, well, let me give you a little bit of background about this halal meat debate and why it's come up so recently. And that's because Parliament is set to debate whether halal slaughter should be banned next month. It comes as the method required to produce halal meat is non-stun slaughter, which some argue is more painful for the animal. A government petition calling for its banning has exceeded 100,000 signatures, and activists say animal welfare must come before religious exemptions. So we're asking, should halal slaughter be banned in the UK? And for this scrap, it's going to be me versus Kai. Kai, I'll kick it off from here.
Go on.
I believe, as a British country, we shouldn't have to constantly bend over backwards for religious minorities and succumb to what they want in their food. At the end of the day, as we were talking about assimilation not that long ago, British people tend to be quite pro-animal welfare. We don't like the idea of animals dying cruelly in our country in 2025. Maybe that wasn't the case in the past, but we've moved on and we've grown as a country. And I'll go as far to say, not only would I ban halal slaughter, but I'd ban kosher slaughter as well. Because at the end of the day, Britain doesn't stand for animal slaughter just for the case of religious minorities. The other problem I've got, Kai, is that it seems to me, particularly when it comes to halal meat, that we're having more and more of it forced into restaurants because a very small minority of people are screaming very loudly. I don't necessarily believe that the labelling is very clear for a lot of people, or whether the British public understands what goes in to halal slaughter, and particularly as well kosher slaughter. So yes, I would scrap it entirely, allow small community shops to sell it, but for restaurants and everywhere else, should not go ahead.
So scrap it entirely, or sorry?
Yeah.
Not quite clear.
For restaurants,
you know what?
That are serving it to the public.
You know what, Alex?
I think you should be allowed to buy religious things from small community shops, just to be clear. But for restaurants and everywhere else, it should be banned.
Well, it's made quite a garbled argument, even more so. And I think British Jews would have something to say about your argument too. Look, if you believe in a free society, you believe in protecting people's rights to live by their values. Now, Jews with kosher meat, Christians with Lent, frankly, you don't have to agree with it if it doesn't harm people. If it doesn't harm everybody around you, that's liberty, that's freedom. And frankly, let's be real, Alex.
Wait, I'm not talking about harming people. I'm talking about the animals being slaughtered inhumanly, Kai. Not slaughtering humans.
Look. And that's what I was getting onto, Alex, because actually, if you say that British people don't like the mistreatment of animals, then frankly, the last few decades have passed you by. Probably these animals are treated much better than the average factory farm in the UK. Now, if you are worried about animal cruelty, then let's have a conversation about that. Maybe let's ban factory farms. If you're worried about people living by their values, there's a pretty slippery slope. Many Jews and Christians would have a lot to say about it. But frankly, this argument is ridiculous and goes contrary to everything we believe about freedom and liberty in this country.
Well, it goes contrary to a few things, Kai, but what it doesn't go contrary to is animal welfare. So people don't like... Hang on, let me talk. People do not like the idea of animals' throats being slit while they're still alive. In some cases, they are stunned, but it's pretty brutal. I think you should go and watch, maybe educate yourself and go and watch how halal meat is created. Of course, it also has a religious connotation to it as well. Many people don't know that when they're eating halal meat, they're eating a blessing in some form of religion. The same for kosher food. And that will go against the values of many Christian people, and we are a Christian country at the end of the day. And I'm not saying people should be forced to eat it, but at the end of the day, more and more restaurants are being forced into submission. They're being forced to, we saw, what was it, Five Guys, a big burger chain, having entirely halal food. And on top of that, they have to scrap bacon and other goods just to accommodate a small minority of people. That's not liberty. That is the minority voice outweighing the vast majority of people.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first. Animal rights are more important to Alex Armstrong than human rights.
What has that got to do with it?
The right to freedom of expression.
Let's bring the panel. Let's bring the panel. Go on.
Is less important.
So I think your argument is a little bit skewed, and I'm going to say that, OK?
What, because I said you can...
No, because
community shops
you're fine with animal slaughter, so long as they're then sold off in small shops.
No, I think there should be a small amount of shops that are allowed to sell it, because, of course, people should be allowed to practice their religion in the country.
You can't have it both ways.
But I don't what I'm worried about is this becoming a standard practice across the country.
Put that aside for the minute, because I think that is a different conversation. I've done some research into halal and kosher meat, and actually 88% of halal meat is stunned fully before it is slaughtered. And I don't have a problem with that, because I have seen how our abattoirs work, and lots of those animals aren't stunned either. So I think the compromise here would be to say all halal meat must be stunned and kosher before it is slaughtered. Because I would rather that our Parliament were debating whether or not we should actually be cutting the foreskins off of newborn babies, which is more important than this.
Well,
it's about time we have an honest conversation about circumcision on this show, Renee. But above and beyond that...
well, of course...
Can we stick to halal for this part of the show, please? We'll ask the audience next week if they want to debate circumcision.
Of course. Sometimes I just hear things coming out of my mouth, but halfway through me saying, I go, oh, where am I going?
Where are you?
And you are a bit biased, because of course a Willie would say that.
Yes. This is a rare example of a scrap where I came in with one particular view, and I probably changed a bit over the course of it, partially because, Alex, I do think you were sitting on the fence. I thought it was a bit soft by your standards.
I'm not unreasonable.
Kai's kind of buzzwords about liberty, which I don't think he fully believed, but nonetheless, it still kind of got me. So I think Renee's compromise is spot on. I think that is...
I think Renee's way of looking at it is completely the best way to look at it, I think. Because where do you stop it? You've got factory farming, you've got fish farms, you've got battery farms. We're really concerned about animal welfare. Come on, guys, where are we going to draw the line? Are we going to stop leather? I mean, how far are you going to go? Are we going to ban fur? I think an element of it is slightly politically motivated a little bit. I think if it's purely about animal welfare, let's focus on the animal welfare and let's make sure it's done before you...
I will hasten to add, I think the audience is, at least our members here seem to be relatively on my side in terms of banning it. I think most of you at home would ban it entirely. And a lot of those, Kai, are on the grounds of culture, British culture. They don't believe that people should bring their religious, cultural identities with them, including things like halal slaughter. Many people are saying we're a Christian country, therefore this shouldn't be practiced in this country. If people want to practice it, they should practice it in their own country.
I agree with you, Alex. I don't think we should be having halal food in all of the NHS and people don't know. No. Absolutely not. That shouldn't be happening. But there should be the facility for people who really would be completely traumatised by not eating halal meat. They should be able to, just for their home and for their restaurants, have it, but we should do it humanely.
Absolutely, and it's not just halal; it's also kosher as well.
And kosher,
you know, and we have religious minorities that should be honoured in what they do, but just let's think about the way for the animals.
Pierre here's made this point, and I don't know whether this is factual or not. We might be able to check it in the break, but this is a comment to you for you, Kai. Halal meat is served in many or all of our schools, as they're arguing here.
I think it is many of them.
Many of them is, and a lot of kids or parents may not know that. And I think this goes to the crux of my problem with it all, is that it's forced onto people to appease a small minority of people, and actually most people would rather not eat it if they found out how it was made.
I agree it should never be forced on people. The answer is not to ban it for everybody in this country because, as you say, it would be traumatising and actually contrary to their entire religion for many British Muslims to be forced to eat non-halal meat.
But
that's not right either.
I would argue then that's tough.
But put it aside. But put aside the discussion about immigration, the discussion about how many foreign Muslims are coming to the UK rather than the British Muslims who have integrated well here. Put that aside. You can't ban these things for entire swathes of the population who are doing nothing except living their lives.
But my argument was not ban it for everybody, but I was saying ban it in restaurants, ban it in mass production, ban it in schools, ban it in the NHS.
Ban it in restaurants.
That way we've come... Yes, ban it in restaurants.
You talk about ghettoisation and about issues where certain nationalities live in some place. That's just going to worsen things if we ban... Why? You're talking about banning British Muslims from all restaurants.
I'm not talking about banning British Muslims from restaurants, but my stepfather is a Muslim and he'll happily eat non-halal food.
It's not very observant, is it?
And that's called assimilation. The same for kosher. No, I don't think it does.
It goes a little bit against our values.
Because the problem is that we're accepting and we've allowed a very small minority of people to move into our culture, and they've made such a fuss about the NHS not serving halal food that actually hospitals are having to convert. Right? Hospitals are having to convert their whole meat dishes. So we've got to get to a point. It's similar to the cousin marriage debate, right? You might argue. Based on your argument, you will say cousin marriage is acceptable because we shouldn't be stopping people affecting them and affecting their liberty in the country. By your same standard.
Let me mischaracterise you in return. By your standard, British Jews, British Muslims are banned from most restaurants, most NHS hospitals across the UK. Correct or not correct?
They can't eat. I'm not saying no Jews, no Muslims in food restaurants. I'm saying, actually, unfortunately, this is the case. You go to the NHS, you're going to have to eat non-kosher food. Tough. We can't be pandering to everybody.
I think the food, though...
I don't really know what to think here. I'm just enjoying the debate. This is fascinating.
You said I was sitting on the fence. Look at you, you're literally on it.
I think, though, the food is a religious requirement. I think, though, cousin marriage isn't. And it's a bit of a hard one. We're talking over 1 million, maybe 2 million people, both Muslims, both Jews, that are then going to be...
very
Right, we should be honest in Parliament and not look to ban it on the grounds that it's inhumane. Ban it because we don't want it in the NHS. We don't want to force people.
All right, still to come. Very fiery stuff, isn't it, today? Still to come today.
You don't have to worry. Don't you be...
I'm not going to believe that man deserves an Oscar for that, and I promise you it's gold. Stay tuned for this week's Trigger Tantrums. But next, an award-winning police officer is joining us to talk about that officer who was sacked for losing control. You're with the Saturday 5 Live on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
100 years young, and you took part, of course, in the World War II.
Yes.
But you were a wren. Tell us about what you did to help keep the country safe from Nazis.
Well, I did my best. Well, I was so determined that the Germans weren't going to come into our country, the Nazis. And, you know, we all felt the same. We were so angered that they should dare to even think of coming into our country. They'd bombed London like crazy, and they hadn't got it. And we fought them back, and we fought them to the coast, and then we pushed them over into France, and we pursued them there.
This is you back in your service days. Tell us your happiest memories of those wonderful times.
Oh, good heavens. I just think it was meeting people from other parts of Britain and other types of people, you know, different backgrounds, for example. And it was just so releasing of ourselves. And we were dying to push the Nazis back so that they couldn't conquer. It wasn't the German people. They were suffering as badly as we were. But it was just, we were so determined in England then. It wasn't Britain. We were fighting for England, the Welsh were fighting for Wales, and the Scottish were fighting for Scotland.
GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please get in touch. I'm loving it. Oh, they've got your sate's going nuts today. You guys have got some great questions here coming in. Master of Pastors says ban Halal to see a mass immigration event or re-immigration event, I think is what you mean. You think that'll move people out? Halal meat should be labelled and have a description on it, kind of similar to what you guys were saying. Christina says absolutely Halal should be banned. It's appallingly cruel. Ban factory farming too. Look, I'll get into some more of these and ask the five because you guys have got a lot to say on this topic. So keep them coming in. But now, fury has erupted after an award-winning officer, PC Lawn Castle, was sacked for showing a lack of courtesy, get this, during the arrest of a knife-carrying teen accused of assaulting an elderly man. His use of force was ruled lawful, and now a misconduct panel found his language and tone unacceptable. Critics have slammed the decision as madness, saying it punishes a decorated officer for doing a dangerous job under pressure. PC Castle says he's still processing the outcome but remains grateful for the public support. So, should police officers be sacked for losing control? To discuss this, I'm very pleased to welcome retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We are talking a lot about policing the last few months. We've seen a lot of criticism thrown at police since the Gaza conflict arose. You know, is it becoming increasingly impossible to do the job of a copper on the streets?
I feel really sorry for the young officers on the street today. It is really almost an impossible task. If you look at a couple of cases this week, you had Robert Jenrick highlighting the lawlessness of in London, people not simply paying fares, the amount of shoplifting, the antisocial behaviour. And also the public will see what many officers are really questioning, where a 92-year-old one-legged man was tasered and pepper sprayed, which they think this really isn't right, but those officers were found not guilty. No, this officer from Dorset, PC Lawn Castle, he has been commended twice for saving people's lives. He was awarded for being the best officer in the Dorset force. And here he admits, oh, I lost control for a couple of minutes, and he's automatically thrown out. Now, there's a biblical phrase about being weighed in the balance. And if you weigh this man in the balance, he is a good, fine officer. And you think, maybe a sergeant could say to him, look, you know, you've got to watch yourself here because he didn't cause any injuries to this prisoner or whatever, anything else. He used a few robust language. Now, I was a soldier and a police officer in very busy areas like Brixton and Peckham. And you have to sometimes use robust language. And the other final point I've made is that the youth arrested had a knife on him. And what happened about that? He was given a community order. He wasn't even convicted. So the public are really concerned about crime, about violence. And what they see is an officer who's done really good work just thrown to the wolves, really, and I think it's completely unacceptable.
Yeah, before I bring in my panel, just one more question for you. We saw the case of the officer, of course, who shot Chris Carber, the man who obviously had attempted to kill other people and driven his car into London. The police obviously arrested him, but he refused to comply, and therefore he was killed by a copper. That copper, of course, was found innocent by the courts, but now the Met Police, I believe it is, or the conduct authorities of the police, have said that they're looking at his conduct. Does it really pay to be a police officer these days? You're sort of constrained by not only these sort of moral courts sitting around you determining whether you can do this and that, but you've also got a ton of laws and other things you have to remember as well. Is it just impossible to police now?
And we're asking human beings, aren't we, to be like robots?
Yeah.
Human beings lose their temper occasionally. These are decent people who are doing a good job. The sergeant who shot Carber, he's a gangster. There's a man who's a gangster who threatened to kill other people. And what strikes me, though, in this case here with PC Castle, is that the Assistant Chief Constable said, oh, our communities will be concerned about this. No, she's obviously, these people are completely detached. I tell you what the community is concerned at, that a hard-working and decent officer has been sacked. People won't, because this young lad needed to be gripped, he needed to be arrested, he needed that knife taken off him. A criminal was taken off the streets and assaulted elderly people, and we need to get a grip here. What kind of police force do we want? Because at the moment, the country is lawless, and that's not good.
My question follows on from this notion of who would want to be a police officer with all of these challenges that are bubbling around, and that is, how is recruitment going for all of the forces around the United Kingdom? And are you seeing a drop-off given the challenges that Alex just mentioned?
Well, from your accent, I hope I don't insult you by saying you're in Australia. I hope you're not a New Zealander. I insult. A lot of police officers are actually being recruited for South Australia. People are making off to there. What you really find as well, what's happened with the police is when I joined from the army. Most people stayed in for 30 years. Now there are more people resigning than retiring for the first time ever. In 1 month, I think in 2023-24, the Met recruited about 20 people. When I was a recruit, there was 120 or more at the training school. So the recruitment is just dire at the moment.
Wow. Final question to Renee, and then we'll have to move on.
Hi. I'm just wondering, we now insist that all of our police officers have a degree. And does that make them less prepared for the robust life once they're on the street now? Because if you go up and you do all of your training next to an experienced police officer on the street, you probably get more used to what you might encounter so that when it does go the wrong way up, you can cope better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I went to Hendon Police Training College, I went straight from the army. And it was like going to another army camp. There were ex-soldiers there marching people around, and about half the recruits were ex-servicemen and women. And so you had an environment where it was robust, where people had experience of life. Now they're trained in universities and they're discussing things and sitting on beanbags. It's not the police force we need. And too many of the chief officers are of that ilk. They are university graduates. We need more ex-servicemen. We need a good police force that makes communities safe. And I would say I fully support PC Castle on this, and I hope he appeals and he gets back to the job he's good at and the job he loves.
Yeah, thank you so much. Retired Scotland Yard detective there, Mike Neville. Thank you very much for coming on, Mike. Kai, let's go to you on this. You know, the government here is spending a lot of money, cash, hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions of pounds on woke DEI stuff. Before we get to Kai's question, let's just throw to this little video really quickly, shall we?
Bit harder. Go on. Hit it.
Yeah, just if you're listening on radio, that is 3 female coppers trying to break down a door with some equipment there. Very unsuccessful, unfortunately. A male copper at the back observing, of course. Maybe didn't want to step in for the fear of being called sexist or something. I don't know. That's what I would maybe be worried about. But Kai, this is the thing of the millions of pounds spent on DEI programmes for the community to look like them. Policing just isn't working anymore, is it?
You know what? You made what could be a really sensible argument, and actually I agree with so much of what's just been said. There clearly is an issue. This guy clearly should not have been thrown out. You made what could have been quite easy. ridiculous. I mean, to slam DEI and then to put up... I'm surprised you didn't say lady
£10
police.
million on diversity posts. £10 million on diversity posts.
And you furnished that argument with this...
Well, I think it's a prime example,
silly video making out that...
By the time the women get into that front door, the bloke would have legged it out the back and cleared out his house. In fact, they're probably still there now trying to do it.
So is the problem with policing at the minute female police officers?
No, but it's symptomatic of the issues we have, isn't it, Clive? Back to the 1980s, you wouldn't have seen this being a problem.
Alex, the point is too many police officers feel they are policing things and doing things they shouldn't be doing, whether that is doing DEI programs. Renee's losing it.
You should listen to Kai talk about how DEI is not part of the problem.
That's funny. Whether it is doing DEI training programs they shouldn't be doing, or whether it is knocking on people's houses for tweets, they are going, the core role of a police officer is completely out of whack with reality.
And therefore, when we get to the police actually using a little bit of force, like they had to on this bloke, like they had to on other people, they are absolutely slammed, dragged through tribunals, they lose their job.
But this is the point, though, that the fact that they've gone through degrees now, as Mike said, sitting on beanbags, not been on the streets. All of these people that are coming out of university are so sensitive. They're triggered by everything. Yeah. They're soft. Yeah. They don't want language that might hurt them. So it's very easy for these older policemen to fall into these traps.
Trey, last word.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's funny. If you brought over, like, Jamaican police or Nigerian police, they would laugh at this. They'd be like, what? Policing should be tough. I mean, come on. It does need to be tough. Although I would look at it, especially, it's great to have knives off, but we also need to be tough on the causes of these crimes as well. Putting these young lads in prison, it won't make any difference. We need to deal with that just as much. Yeah. But policing should be tough. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Well, with that £10 million that Kai thinks is a joke, we could have funded 354 police officers, but there you go. There we go. Still to come tonight.
Until I get my reparations, I'm done caring about anybody else's issues, y'all.
I can't wait to get my reparations from the French. You don't want to miss this week's Triggered Tantrums. But next, the number of couples getting a prenup is increasing. Why are so many of us getting one? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News. We'll ask Renee if she's got one too.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Quite a changeable look to the weather on Sunday, a mixture of rain or showers for some of us, but there will be some sunshine, particularly in the south and the east. It is going to be turning a good deal fresher though, this cold front bringing in some fresher winds from the Atlantic as we go into Sunday, and those isobars tightening together to bring some brisker winds. One or two showers on Saturday evening just moving their way eastwards across England and Wales, but many areas actually ending the day on a dry note with some clear periods overnight. Notice these clumps of heavy showers and longer spells of rain arriving across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland though, and here turning quite windy once again. Temperatures not as high as they have been in recent nights and feeling a good deal fresher by the morning. So for Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, quite a wet start to the day on Sunday. That rain particularly heavy across the Highlands, the Grampians and down across the central belt as well. A mixture of sunshine showers to the northwest of Scotland and across Northern Ireland. So you may be lucky enough to stay dry just about here. But a few isolated showers also for Northern England, Wales and southwest England too. The best of the morning sunshine across the Midlands and eastern parts of the UK. But as we go through the morning, the cloud will tend to just bubble up a bit towards the east. Still some sunny spells here. Some pretty heavy showers, the odd rumble of thunder there across Wales, Northern England and Western Scotland. And here it will be a fairly blustery day, perhaps even coastal gales through the Irish Sea. So feeling quite a bit cooler than it has done of late. Still holding on to a little bit of warmth in the far southeast with highs of around 22 or 23 in the London area. A fine day to come for most of us on Monday, just a few very isolated showers developing. But notice it does start to turn much windier up towards the northwest and out towards the west. We've got this much wetter and windier area of weather coming in from Monday night and into Tuesday. So a wet and windy spell for many of us as we begin the day on Tuesday. And it looks set to stay pretty changeable for the rest of the week.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. As you know, you can get in touch with us, gbnews.com/yoursay, and we've got Ask the 5 coming up really soon. So I want to see more Ask the 5 questions. If you just put Ask the 5, I will know and I'll copy and paste it for the next hour. Thank you for your messages so far. Really interesting comments on Your Say here from the last hour. Some of them I can't read about, Kai, here, but someone says, Kai, you are something. Lent, what does that have to do with it? We are a Christian country. Sarah says, halal, non-stun slaughter goes against our culture and shouldn't be allowed in this country. Glynis says on the policing stuff here, what's going on in our country? It's crazy the boy was carrying a knife in the first place. Don't be soft on them. They know they can take the mickey. Fairy says, would any of you on the panel like to have an operation without anaesthetic? That's what it's like.
No, that's what I said. They should all be stunned.
There we go.
Yeah. I thought that was still about the police.
Well, yeah, you never know. Alison says she really brings me tonight. I like Alison. Now it's time for this. Yeah, it's Bunch of Five, a quick-fire round of some other news of the week. Will, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got a video which by now many of us would have seen. It was the wonderful display of vigilante, shadow justice during the week from Robert Jenrick as he fearlessly went up to fare evaders on the tube in London. We've got the clip. Let's have another look.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay? You can say off as much as you want, but everyone else has to pay. You're carrying a knife, you say? Nearly 1 in 25 people using London's public transport aren't paying for it. So there's 8 officers down there, but 1 minute away, that gate's wide open.
Yeah, this is really good modern political communications. Jenrick gets social media in a way that none of the other Conservatives, in fact, I would say very few other politicians in the UK get. But Mike, that's my question. Like, we keep seeing these videos that have cut through from Jenrick. Where is the rest of the Conservative Party? They are at existential risk at the moment, and yet he's the only one we see week to week. What are they doing?
Or is he doing too much, Kai?
No, I really thought this.
You quite like it, don't you? You're about to say it, weren't you? You're about to kill your political career, so you quite like what he's doing.
This struck home because I've just moved back to London from Cardiff. The fares that you pay on TfL are outrageous, and to see people, it's so galling to see people evade those fares.
Every time I use the tube.
I've never, you know what? I've never seen it.
Oh my God.
Which is really, maybe I'm not looking enough. But let's be clear, Jenrick isn't trying to cut through so that he can become Prime Minister. He's trying to cut through so he can become leader of the Conservative Party. That's why we're hearing from him, this shadow campaign.
Trey, I saw you say the Shadow Campaigns Minister. Trey, is this a bit of a ploy by Jenrick to stay in the headlines because he wants to challenge Kemi Badenoch, or is it just good? Is it just good shadow?
I think it's a bit of both, and it's like what I spoke about last week, isn't it? We need a bit of character, we need some depth, and I think it's good that he's showing up. And you're right, I think more Tory ministers should be showing up, be seen to be out and about, to be seeing what's going on. You know, be in the thick of it rather than just sort of in their sort of lofty towers, seemingly not caring.
Would we just, if every politician did this, would it just not be completely outrageous and theatrical, and actually they're not getting on the job with governing the country and their constituency?
Look, I think if every single politician did this, yes, it would just be ridiculous. But I think we could do with a few more who are looking to be leaders, because what we are missing in this country is a leader.
OK, and while we're on it, sorry, we've got to move on, but while we're on it, your bunch of five for us.
My bunch of five. So this week, a new charity opened its doors called Momo, and it's a breastfeeding charity to support women who want to be with other women to learn how to feed their child and discuss any problems they have. Now, previously, they would have gone to La Lèche, which is the oldest charity that was founded, you know, over 80 years ago. But recently, the founder of La Lèche distanced herself from that charity because they decided that the charity should also support men who want to come into those little groups and breastfeed babies. I know, you couldn't make it up. So J.K. Rowling gave a substantial donation this week to Momo because she supports this women's only space. Because guess what, guys? Only women can breastfeed.
Yeah, absolutely right. And J.K. Rowling is just brilliant on this stuff, and she's completely uncancelable.
Get into this fight.
No, she didn't, and she chose to. And I think, you know, there are things I disagree with J.K. Rowling about, because she is quite leftist in many of her political opinions. Actually, people don't know this anymore because the whole trans debate has taken over. She's quite left wing, actually. So I do disagree with her quite a lot. But this, she's bang on, isn't she, Will?
Yeah, of course she is. And look, I've been in Australia for the last 3 weeks, and they're about 5 years. They're pre-UK Supreme Court. I spoke with a lady in Australia who ran a women's-only social media platform, Sal Grover, and that she's been going through the ringer in the courts for a similar type of thing where she had to let a man into a woman's-only social media platform. Thank God that this stuff is finally being called out in the UK.
Absolutely. I've got to move on because we're running out of time on this, and I want to tell you about my one. Crimes against the English language are happening, aren't they? And sometimes I'm to blame. I know Renee's mum has called me out many times for poor use of English on this show. But some key words that people get wrong. This is an article from the Telegraph. Archipelago. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that means?
Archipelago.
Yep. Harassment is another one that's used. Harassment.
You have to apologise for that in the break.
Arxed. Have you heard that one? Arxed.
Yeah.
Arcs, that's quite a London one.
Very London.
That's quite... Isn't it Catherine Tate who used to say that? Or was it from... No, Little Britain. Vicky Pollard.
Asked. And it's asked. Asked. And young kids are putting the K in front of the S. Asked. Wrath.
No, but
wrath.
No, get to the one that we actually all disagreed on.
I can't remember. What was it?
Mischievous.
Who does that?
Who says that?
I say mischievous.
You, Alex Armstrong.
Espresso instead of espresso.
Oh,
espresso.
Yeah. People say espresso. Stop it. It's disgusting. Moving on. Trey, what have you got for us?
So, this week in the news is a report of a big spike in couples getting prenups. So, apparently 20% of all married couples in the country have signed prenup agreements. They're not legally binding, but after a 2010 landmark ruling, courts are expected to uphold prenups that have been entered into freely. So I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? I actually think it's a good thing. And I think one of the reasons is people tend to be getting married a lot later, therefore they've got assets to protect. I think another thing is, obviously, people are just more pragmatic. I mean, half of all marriages will probably...
People certainly are. They're certainly not richer.
Cynical, Trey.
I mean,
have you got prenup?
No, I don't. I would never...
See?
No, but if there's a possibility
people
of
who are getting married in this country now are the wealthier middle class and above. Those are the people who are getting married. Below that, people aren't getting married anymore.
That's very true.
So that's why prenups are on the up. It's interesting because I know a man very close to me who's been absolutely stymied by not having a prenup and by being milked. And I think men generally do get a very rough time.
Yeah.
However, I've just got a message from one of my friends saying that her daughter should have had a prenup because she got taken to the cleaners.
Oh, no.
That'll teach you.
Will, very quickly, prenup for you when you get married?
Depends if she's wealthier or not.
I would ask Kai, but it's unlikely to happen. Kai, what have you got for us?
I was about to say I don't have a prenup either, but I haven't been on a date for years. Well, we all love to hate the French, but one thing we can count on the French for is their love of smoking. That's something I share with them. But a new law coming into force will have smoking banned in public areas in France, like on benches, for instance, or near schools, or on a bus stop. Now, really, this is I get a sense of decline from so many Western countries, but this really kicks it off for me.
Okay.
What do you think?
Trey, what do you make of it?
Smoking ban, I think people should be allowed to smoke at the end of the day. I think
Everywhere.
we've already had it restricted. I remember in my days you'd go clubbing, etc., and you'd come out smelling the smoke. Whereas now you can't. I think we've done enough.
You know what? Business idea, maybe we can go into business together. An airline where you can smoke.
Oh my God! No.
In the plane,
And you know
Renee,
what? You
don't
could
book
put-
it.
Maybe you could do the whole Labour Party could fly out on that plane with him. Maybe that would solve all of our problems.
Kill us all off in one go.
To have flown on planes where people could smoke, it's disgusting.
Really? I've never experienced
They
that.
always had the seats at the back.
Ah.
You had to walk through it to go to the loo.
Oh no. Okay, I think public areas there should be as smoke-free as possible. But I think people should be allowed to smoke at pubs.
Should be allowed to.
Before we move on, because we've got to move on. Karen says, I had to stop my granddaughter saying math instead of maths.
Oh,
that's Americanisation. It's coming for all of us. Still to come tonight on the show.
You don't have to worry. Don't you be.
I promise you, when I tell you where that was and why he's doing that, you're going to cringe. Trigger Tantrums is up next. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So a new book will challenge the conventional view of Alzheimer's, claiming that for the vast majority of people, it is not an inevitable part of ageing, but something that can actually be prevented.
So we're joined in studio now Patrick Holford, chair of the Alzheimer's Prevention Expert Group, who joins us now. Patrick, it's a very powerful message, the idea that you can prevent Alzheimer's. There seems to be a sense that it's just inevitable with ageing for a lot of people. Why is it not?
It's not inevitable, because half of people don't get it. And one point to make very clearly is that less than 1 in 100 cases are caused by genes. So there's a few very, very rare genes which will cause Alzheimer's. So possibly for up to 99%, we can prevent it. And even a major UK biobank study, which, by the way, left out 2 of the most important risk factors, for reasons I'll explain, concluded that 73% can be prevented. Now, the terrible thing about Alzheimer's, which is really a shrinkage of the brain, is once you've got holes in your brain, there is no way to reverse that. The rate of brain shrinkage in people with pre-dementia reduced by 73%. In the latest drug, donanemab, the rate of brain shrinkage increased by 20%. So what we're really in right now is a pharmaceutically led sort of industry that is pushing for a cure. I don't think a cure will come because there isn't a single point.
Well, the book is Alzheimer's Prevention is the Cure. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Foodforthebrain.org.
Patrick Holford, chair of the Alzheimer's Prevention Expert Group.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Saturday 5, gbnews.com/yoursay. I want to know what you've got to say. Very, very briefly, Barrow Boy says, one word Alex can't pronounce correctly is inquiry. I did get called out for this like months ago for saying enquiry, and I apologise because I've now corrected my grammar and my English on that one. Reform UK Chris says GB News is guilty of Americanisations. How many times do I hear deportations instead of deportations? I would never get that wrong, just for the record. Anyway, yes, now it is time for Triggered Tantrums. You've got a free ticket to this week's Ringmasters of Rage, Clowns of Collapse and Acrobats of Absurdity, tumbling over zilch. Wait until you see this lot. Will, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick us off with a medical miracle, Alex. Look at this. Joe Biden, who was, I think, unfortunately going through extended cognitive decline throughout his presidency, has miraculously turned it around, and somehow we are going in reverse. Have a look at this sharp little exchange from Joe.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent and I can't walk and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
Yeah, maybe not.
Oh,
yeah.
bless him.
Why does he, whenever he's challenged now, like threaten physical abuse?
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. I think he should just take him off air. I think he should just retire
I think
now.
watching anybody's mental decline is
sad.
I don't think it's sad because he's putting himself out there.
He should know better, but actually, and there's a book out, I think this week or last week, by Jake Tapper, the CNN anchor, that talks about just the level of cover-up that the Democratic establishment undertook. It's shocking, but also what's even more shocking, 6 Democratic Congresspeople have died in office in the last year.
Yeah, there should be age limits.
There's a
should be
pattern
age limits
here.
for sure. OK, Renee, what have you got for us?
OK, I'm just going to let this video play and then we can discuss it.
Until I get my reparations, I'm done caring about anybody else's issues, y'all. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care about nothing anybody else got going on because y'all don't care about me getting reparations, so my problems. I don't care no more. I really don't.
Now, I don't agree with reparations, and I've talked about it many, many times because I think, you know, I'm not responsible for what people did 200 years ago in my name. However, what I found really interesting about that woman is she doesn't look like she's got the motivation to actually go shopping, let alone care about anybody else or do anything, other than to put her lipstick on while she was having the rant. It's the weirdest video I've seen.
Yeah, I think once you start getting into the reparations debate, where does it end? I mean, do I want reparations from the Normans? Do I want them from the Kings? Yeah, exactly.
I'm Welsh, Alex, so we'd like some cash back.
Yeah, from who?
Do you know what, though?
I'm fine for hundreds of years.
I'm going to be a bit controversial. I think I am in favour of reparations, but over twist.
Go on.
I'm not in favour of just cash handouts given to people, but I'm in favour of fair trade practices for third world countries. I think that's the form of reparations that I would like to see.
I don't even think that's reparations. I think
yeah.
that's just common sense.
Fair.
Fair trade should be part and parcel.
Because if you give reparations, people might just end up spending it on all
Donald, what do you think about fair trade?
Borrow them all, I think, actually. Let's put a tariff on everybody. Why not? I don't know about that. I think we should tariff the EU 500%, actually. That would be what I would do, but I don't know. What do you think, Renee?
All right, let me play you this tantrum because I saw this week and I could not believe it. Have a look. Before we play it, this is the aftermath of the George Floyd BLM stuff. He's having this golden funeral for the man. Have a look what this mayor did.
You don't have to worry, and don't you be afraid. Joy comes in the morning.
I mean, I hadn't seen that video before. It just the hairs on my back just like it's like
people don't cry this much at their own mother's funeral.
Exactly. He deserves an Oscar for that performance because it was quite clearly completely put on. Kai, would you do that sort of theatrics if any of your idols passed away?
No. I wouldn't. But let me
short and sweet.
But let me tell you, you know, you look at the UK public, I hate to say it, but, you know, the outpourings of grief that we have about Princess Diana and so on, not somebody you'd ever come across. I mean...
Nuts. How can you compare Princess Diana to George?
No. Criminal and an adult film star. It's ridiculous. No, he is.
Really?
Yeah, I heard that the other day.
Oh, my goodness. All the ridiculous things you said today.
Princess Diana.
I think it is different, but I think, I mean, that's just a performance, isn't it? We can agree.
It's theatrical.
Yeah.
But people do have a habit of just, you know, outpourings of grief over people that they're never going to know. Both are ridiculous.
Listen, he knew the cameras were there. He knew everyone was watching.
yeah.
But anyway, don't go anywhere because up next, the Saturday 5 Extra. We're going to let our hair down. I'm getting a pint for everyone in the room. Well, I'm not getting it. Our producer is. We will rate his pint, all right? So Daniel, they better be good. And we'll see you when we get back in just a moment. Here's the weather.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Quite a changeable look to the weather on Sunday, a mixture of rain or showers for some of us, but there will be some sunshine, particularly in the south and the east. It is going to be turning a good deal fresher though, this cold front bringing in some fresher winds from the Atlantic as we go into Sunday, and those isobars tightening together to bring some brisker winds. One or two showers on Saturday evening, just moving their way eastwards across England and Wales, but many areas actually ending the day on a dry note with some clear periods overnight. Notice these clumps of heavy showers and longer spells of rain arriving across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland though, and here turning quite windy once again. Temperatures not as high as they have been in recent nights and feeling a good deal fresher by the morning. So for Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, quite a wet start to the day on Sunday. That rain particularly heavy across the Highlands, the Grampians and down across the central belt as well. A mixture of sunshine showers to the northwest of Scotland and across Northern Ireland. So you may be lucky enough to stay dry just about here. But a few isolated showers also for Northern England, Wales and southwest England too. The best of the morning sunshine across the Midlands and eastern parts of the UK. But as we go through the morning, the cloud will tend to just bubble up a bit towards the east. Still some sunny spells here. Some pretty heavy showers, the odd rumble of thunder though across Wales, Northern England and Western Scotland. And here it will be a fairly blustery day, perhaps even coastal gales through the Irish Sea. So feeling quite a bit cooler than it has done of late. Still holding on to a little bit of warmth in the far southeast with highs of around 22 or 23 in the London area. A fine day to come for most of us on Monday, just a few very isolated showers developing, but notice it does start to turn much windier up towards the northwest and out towards the west. We've got this much wetter and windier area of weather coming in from Monday night and into Tuesday.